There is someone in your life right now who has hurt you, and somehow they have convinced everyone around them that they are the one who got hurt. Maybe it was a manipulative ex, a controlling parent, a coworker who sabotaged you and then cried to the manager first. And the most confusing part is not what they did, it is how effortlessly they flipped the script, how naturally the tears came, how quickly people believed them, and how you ended up standing there looking like the villain in a story you did not even recognize. If that has ever happened to you, stay with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why toxic people do this. And more importantly, you will never be caught off guard by it again. Let us start with something most people get completely wrong. When we call someone a victim player, we imagine a calculating person sitting in a dark room, plotting how to manipulate everyone around them. But that is almost never what is happening. The reality is far more unsettling and far more important to understand. Most people who chronically play the victim are not doing it consciously. They genuinely believe their own story, and that is what makes them so convincing. That is what makes them so dangerous. Here is the psychological mechanism behind it. The human brain has a powerful drive to protect the self-image. Psychologists call this self-serving bias, our tendency to attribute our successes to our own qualities and our failures to external circumstances. In healthy people, this bias is moderate. It helps us maintain confidence without completely losing touch with reality. But in toxic individuals, this bias is extreme. It is not a coping mechanism anymore. It has become a personality structure. When a toxic person hurts someone, their brain does not register it as their fault. It cannot. Accepting responsibility would mean confronting a self-image that is built on the belief that they are fundamentally good, fundamentally justified, fundamentally wronged by the world, and the mind will do almost anything to avoid that kind of internal collapse. So instead, it rewrites the story. The aggressor becomes the victim, the person they hurt becomes the threat, and the rewrite feels completely real to them. This is not performance. This is psychological survival. Now, there is a specific type of person who is most likely to fall into this pattern, and understanding who they are will explain so much about the behavior you have witnessed. Research in personality psychology consistently links chronic victim mentality to traits associated with narcissistic and borderline personality structures. People with high levels of narcissism have an inflated but deeply fragile sense of self-worth. Any criticism, any boundary, any moment where they do not get what they want feels like an attack, feels like a wound. And when they feel wounded, they respond with what researchers call victim signaling, communicating distress to gain social support, deflect blame, and punish the person they perceive as the cause of their pain. But here is what is critical to understand. The pain they are expressing is real. They are not faking the emotion. They are faking, or more accurately, distorting the cause. Think about that for a moment. A person can be genuinely crying, genuinely suffering, and genuinely wrong about why they are suffering. Both things are true at the same time. That is why trying to logic your way through these situations never works. You are not dealing with a lie. You are dealing with a distorted map of reality. There is another layer to this that most psychology videos never talk about, and it has to do with what playing the victim actually gets you socially. When you are the victim, people rush to help you. People defend you. People stop questioning your behavior because questioning a victim feels cruel. You get to sidestep accountability without ever having to fight for it directly. You get sympathy, protection, and power all at once. Social psychologists have a term for this dynamic. They call it the Dark Triad of victimhood, a pattern where someone combines a persistent sense of being wronged, a strong need for others to recognize that wrongness, and low empathy for anyone else's experience of the situation. Studies show that people who score high on this trait are significantly more likely to manipulate others, hold grudges, and seek revenge, all while framing themselves as the injured party. So the victim role is not just emotionally driven, it is strategically useful. Even if the person is not consciously aware of the strategy, their behavior has been reinforced over and over again, every time the tears worked. Every time someone apologized to them for something they did, every time the group rallied around them and turned on someone else, their brain logged that information, and it keeps running the same program. Now, let us talk about what this does to you. Because if you have been on the receiving end of this, there is a specific kind of damage it causes, and it is one of the most disorienting things a person can experience. It is called a DARVO response: deny, attack, reverse victim, and offender. The term was coined by clinical psychologist Jennifer Freed, and it describes a pattern where an abusive or manipulative person, when confronted about their behavior, flips the dynamic entirely. They deny what happened, they attack your credibility, your motives, your mental state, and then they reverse the roles, positioning themselves as the real victim of your accusation. If you have experienced this, you know exactly how it feels. You go into a conversation knowing what happened. You come out questioning your own memory, wondering if you are the one who is too sensitive, too reactive, too difficult. That confusion is not accidental. It is the intended result. The reason DARVO is so effective is that it exploits something fundamentally human: our uncertainty about our own perceptions. When someone confidently contradicts our version of events, especially someone we have an emotional bond with, our brains are wired to doubt ourselves. It is a social survival mechanism. We are built for consensus, not conflict. And toxic people exploit that wiring without even thinking about it. And here is where it gets even more insidious. Once you start doubting your own memory, you become easier to control. Every time you second guess yourself, you give them a little more authority over what is real. Psychologists call this the gaslight loop. Not a single incident, but a cumulative erosion of your confidence in your own perception. It does not happen in one conversation. It happens across dozens of small moments where your version of events gets quietly, consistently overwritten, until one day you catch yourself asking their permission to feel what you feel. That is not confusion. That is the result of a process, and recognizing it as a process is the first step to reversing it. There is one more thing that keeps this dynamic running, and most people never consider it. It is the people around them. The audience. Toxic people are usually very good at two things: choosing the right people to confide in first, and framing the story before you even know a story is being told. By the time you find out that others know about the conflict, they already have a version, and that version positions them as wounded, reasonable, and pushed beyond their limits. You are already the difficult one before you open your mouth. This is not paranoia. Research on social information processing shows that the first account people hear of a conflict creates a cognitive anchor. All subsequent information gets filtered through it. The toxic person knows this instinctively. They move fast. They cry early. They gather witnesses before you gather your thoughts. And once the narrative is set, almost nothing you say will dislodge it, because changing your mind about a victim feels like abandoning them. So, what do you do with all of this? The first thing, and this is the most important, is to stop trying to win the argument about what really happened. You will not win it. Not with them, and often not with the audience they have already convinced. The moment you enter that debate, you are playing on their home field. They have had their entire life to perfect the story of their own victimhood. You are not going to dismantle it in one conversation. What you can do is stay anchored in your own reality, not defensively, not loudly, just firmly. You know what happened. You do not need them to confirm it. You do not need anyone else to confirm it. Your experience is valid whether or not it is recognized. The second thing is to understand the pattern, not the person. When you see the victim flip happen, your job is not to figure out whether this specific person is doing it on purpose. That question will drive you in circles. Instead, ask yourself, is this a pattern? Does this person consistently end up as the wrong party in every conflict? Do they have a long trail of people they have cut off, discarded, or blamed? If the answer is yes, you are looking at a personality pattern, not a misunderstanding you can fix with the right words. The third thing, and this is where real protection comes from, is to stop DARVO before it starts. This means that when you have a conflict with someone you suspect of this pattern, you document, you keep records, not because you are building a legal case, but because having a clear memory of events makes you far more resistant to reality distortion. When someone tells you that your experience did not happen the way you remember, you want to have something real to return to. And the fourth thing is the hardest one. It is to grieve the relationship you thought you had, because when you finally see the victim pattern clearly, when you understand what has been happening and why, there is often a wave of grief underneath the anger. Grief for the time you spent apologizing for things that were not your fault. Grief for the version of that person you believed in. Grief for the energy you poured into trying to fix something that was never broken by you. That grief is real. Let it be there. It means you cared. It means you were operating in good faith. That is not a weakness. That is evidence of your humanity in a situation that was designed to make you question it. Toxic people play the victim because, on some level, they have to. Their psychology depends on it. The story of their own perpetual wrongness is the foundation their entire self-image is built on. You cannot argue someone out of a foundation, but you can stop letting their story determine your reality. You know what happened, and now you know why it went the way it did. That knowledge is not small. That knowledge is how you stop the cycle, not just with them, but with anyone who tries to run the same play. If this video helped you make sense of something you have been carrying, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to understand more about how these psychological patterns shape the way people treat each other, subscribe. We go deeper every week.